Hey, Nick, thanks for joining us today. As we get started, tell us a little about yourself.
Hey, Pat. Sure. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from New Jersey. I went to school at High Point University, which is in North Carolina, and I studied business administration and pre-law double major with a minor in accounting. Um, and I recently moved out to St. Louis, Missouri, to work out of the corporate office in August. And a fun fact about me is that I am an avid bowler.
Well, New Jersey, huh? There's a lot of bowlers in New Jersey, right?
It's a pretty decent amount of people. I grew up doing it with my family, and it was just, especially during COVID, I would walk to the bowling alley just to keep myself busy, and there was always a ton of people there. So it's something fun I like to do.
Absolutely. Well, with your college, the history in college, what got you into sales? What steered you in that direction?
So my father works in sales. He is a kitchen and bathroom designer. He operates in a family business, 63 years, I believe. It's been in business. It was originally with my grandfather, and then my father and his sister have taken it over since then. And I always grew up watching my dad work really long hours, and then he would come home, he'd eat dinner, and then he would go and sit at the table, and he would be designing kitchens and bathrooms. And when I was younger, I would just sit there with him and kind of just watch him. Um, and I would just learn from him. I would try to be a sponge and learn as much as possible. And then when I was 16 years old, my dad started to do a little bit of real estate on the side. And when I have two older brothers that are 4 years older than me, so they were in college at the time. So it was just me and my dad, and we kind of ran an operation together. We would buy and flip properties, and then he would show me both the construction side as well as the selling side. And I always thought it was really cool. And when I was 17 years old, I got my first selling job. I sold skis and snowboards at a ski rental facility. And what we would do is that we would sell programs. So if you had a $1,000 ski, you would put a deposit down for the season, which ran from around September until about April. And then if you decided to keep the ski, then you would just put another $500 deposit and you would keep the ski. Or if you wanted to return it, then you would just pay $500 half price for a brand new ski. And I just got really comfortable with talking to people, and I just enjoyed the process of asking people what they really need, help them find it. Because to me, it was gratifying for me to know that they came to me, they trusted me, and I was able to help them enjoy their ski season as much as possible and give them the best equipment that I possibly can. So when I went to college, um, I was going to go to law school, and I was dead set on law. I took the LSATs and everything, and my aunt is a judge, and she actually talked me out of it. And it was 3 days before my senior year of college. I didn't know what to do, but she asked me a very simple question. She said, "Do you want to practice law in a courtroom for the rest of your life, or do you want to apply all of your knowledge of law to your
Right,
endeavors?"
right.
And I thought about it for about 3 days, and I realized she was right. So when I went through my senior year, I started to think about what I can do, what avenues I can go if I want to be an entrepreneur and maybe start a business or work for an organization. And I took a class called Sales and Dynamic Environments. And my professor at the time he used to be the sales trainer for Xerox for 17 years. And he said that he saw something in me, and he asked me to speak to him in his office hours. And he sat me down. He told me that, I think that you're a seller. And I
Right.
just took him very seriously and put my head down, learned as much as possible. And then I met my boss, Zach Watches, at a career fair, and one thing led to another, and now I'm here. So,
There you go. And now you're here. Was there anything in the law when you were studying law that you could use or found useful when you're selling?
um, contracts, being able to read contracts, actually, like the fine print.
Right.
Law is about being able to read between the lines. And um, when you're dealing with large customers in our industry, we have national accounts, and we a lot of things are contracted. So being able to understand the contract that we're either providing or they're providing for us, I think gives me an edge and allows me to actually kind of have a seat at the table so that
Right.
I can add value in some way.
Exactly. Adding value. That's important. Now, as growing up with your dad being a salesperson, coming from that history of it, was there anything about your dad that when you saw him sell that you were able to take away something that you thought he did really well when he was selling?
My father is an unbelievable listener.
Uh, yeah.
He he's a man of few words, but when he talks, people listen. So he's probably my biggest role model in my life. And when I would watch him sell, it didn't feel like he was selling. It just felt like it was a conversation. And
Right.
you could tell that he was able to unarm the people that he was dealing with without even really trying. It was just so natural for him. And I've been selling right now, and I'm trying to take pieces of what he's doing, and it's just everything that he's done has helped me so far.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When you talk to customers, one of the most important things I always find out about customers when I actually interview some customers, what's the one thing about salespeople that just irritates you? And it's always about they talk too much. They
mhm.
don't listen. And what happens when you don't listen, the customer's talking, the impact on the customers, they feel that you don't care, you're not concerned about their needs as much as your needs. A lot of times salespeople, we're so excited to be in front of the customer because we sell stuff and we love to sell stuff. And maybe we need to take a pause and go back and not speak as much as we should listen. And that's a great trait to have, especially for a salesperson. One of the topics that you and I wanted to talk about, and it was very interesting because I get a lot of calls for this, and a lot of people want to talk about how, as salespeople, we tend to fall into what we call the commodity trap with customers. And what I mean by that, and if you listen to the podcast, it's always about price. We as salespeople already know that price is always going to be an issue with the customer. It's going to come up somewhere in the conversation. But to your point earlier, is that we have to find a way to sell value. A customer can get products from our competitors, same price, same products, but they can't get us as salespeople. So why don't we as salespeople put more value on who we are versus the product?
That's a great question. I'm going to speak from my own experience being new in the commodity world and with Bunzel. I went from selling skis to now selling, paper products and essential items. So I went from really trying to sell you on something to then really just seeing what you need and seeing if I can provide it for you. And I think that that was a big struggle for me when I first started cold calling. um, I would talk a lot, and I was failing to really see what they needed, what their value was. And I think that's because I was so bought in to like Bunzel's initiative of the, own brands, and we're really trying to expand on that. And that's not an easy sell to sell something to somebody that, doesn't really know what that product is, even though our product's great. It's when they have been buying something for so long, they like that product, they like what they have. So what I've been trying to do is that um I found a quote, and it's the more you focus on the value of your product or service, the less important price becomes. And that's something that my father would say in broken words, not exactly, but something that I would take with me. And what I've been doing to combat this is that I immediately ask the customers that I'm talking to. I say, well, what kind of problems do you or your customers have that we can potentially solve? And what that normally does for me, at least, because when I'm calling them, I'm telling them I'm inside sales support for you and your account. I want to understand your business so that I can try and plug and play things that would potentially help you, not just help me. And it kind of unarms them, and it allows them to really tell me exactly what their problem is. Now, sometimes it is price. Sometimes people are saying that, I can get a better price from here and there. And then obviously with that, that's a simple issue. You could go back and try and see if you can fix, if you can get them a better price. But when somebody is dealing with, lead time issues or inventory problems or any other issue that doesn't involve pricing, that's where Bunzel can really come in and you know fix these issues because of what the value add that we have, that we could store your products for you and then we could ship it for you, even though we have items that we're getting from vendors that at a 60% fill rate, we're still able to fill you at 90% or higher.
Right, right, right,
And you know, I that when I made that switch, which has been pretty recently, I've actually started to have success in the people that I've been calling. I've been closing business more often now. And now that I'm going to be going down to Atlanta, that's really what I'm going to be trying to do because I'm starting over again with
right.
learning these customers and trying to establish a relationship. So my goal is to really try and figure out what their issues are so that I can sell a value of what we can provide as a company.
And what got you to that epiphany? I mean, you said it was a matter, months ago where you switched the way you sold, versus price. Now you're going into asking all these really great questions to have the customer surface what their desired outcomes are, what their gaps are, right? What was that? What was that like?
Well, I started asking for help. I feel as sellers, we have an innate confidence about ourselves,
Right,
and we go about things in our own unique way, right? Well, when you're new to something, there's always going to be a better way that something can be done. You're not going to have the answers to everything. And when I first started, I felt that, I have to prove myself and that I have to show that this is why I'm here and that I've learned X, Y, and Z and I need to be able to apply it. But learning something and then applying something are also very different. So when it got to the time where I was actually applying things, I was shutting down a little bit or I was getting a little nervous and then I would back myself into a corner. And instead of just, being hard-headed and trying to figure it out on my own, I realized that I have a community behind me within Bunzel and as well as outside of Bunzel. And I just started asking people questions. Walk me through how you go through your sales cycle. Um, with redistribution accounts, how did you handle a redistribution account compared to a grocery account? And, I think that people started to respect that I was eager to learn. And through that, I have been able to take bits and pieces from multiple different people and try to combine it into my own type of style. And I'm still learning that style, but you know, you make incremental goals and you make incremental gains every day. And that's
right.
all I'm trying to do is just get better than yesterday.
And you as a seller, being a new seller at it, and also, we as individual contributors to the organization, one of the things that the junior salespeople maybe not get at first, but they do eventually, is that there are mentors and coaches that'll help get you through those rough spots. And your customers, I believe, to an extent, know that. They go, oh, I know that Nick's new maybe to this industry, and maybe I can help him out in certain areas because really good customers will help you in that area. They want to see you
Mhm.
succeed. You made an interesting point. There is, in my opinion, we have different customers, whether you sell cars, you sell a house, but within our own organization, we have redistribution accounts, we have grocery accounts, we have processor accounts, we have ag accounts. What was the biggest difference? I mean, there is a difference. So what was the difference that you saw between those customers? What was significant to you?
Okay, so I have actually only called on redistribution accounts so
Right,
far. So I only have experience from shadowing. But from what I've seen, it's the sales process that is different. Where so redistribution is very transactional based. And I've been cold calling customers from St. Louis that are in Georgia, Tampa, Florida, other parts of either of those two states. And I think it's a testament of that industry is that I can be somewhere completely different in the United States of America and call you and then potentially win your business. But another thing is too is that you also can lose that business very quickly.
right,
Um, and I find that redistribution is a lot of price fighting. So I personally try to stay clear of selling on price, um, but it does come up. Whereas what I've seen with grocery and processor, it's more so about how they can make that business run smoother. Specifically in processor, I've seen. And as well as grocery is kind of the middle ground between the two. I think that's redistribution sales, the sales cycle is very quick. Grocery is a little is not as quick, but it's a little slower, but it's still kind of quick. Whereas processor, you really have to work at that account.
You
You
do.
really have to spend time with that account. You have to know that you have to know that customer. You have to know that industry. But then once you get them and they see that you're adding value to them, then you can become very sticky very quickly.
Yeah, I love that term, sticky. To yeah, get really sticky with the customer on that. Something interesting that you said there is that with redistribution, a lot of it is very transactional. I mean, just the nature of it, cases in, cases out, and a lot of it. So I'm going to get to the question of how do you separate yourself when you're in those type of scenarios, but when you go into a food processor account, and I've dealt in all aspects of the organization, or RD, grocery, and processor, you made an interesting point, because when you learn to sell a processor, which can take you anywhere between 18 to 24 months in some cases, right? And it's only one or two items within that processor count that are the primary packaging source for them. It might be trays or film or
Mhm.
something unique to them. If you can just take those skills of how to nurture that customer for 12, 14, 18 months to get an order, going back to the transactional, how do you separate yourself from that mindset, going from the longer sale to that real quick transaction without falling into that trap?
Well, I gotta say, I think that all of the traits that come with trying to get a processor account yours are extremely beneficial for how you can get a grocery and a redistribution account. And I think it's because of the amount of effort that you're putting in, right? I'm not saying that in grocery and redistribution that they're not putting the same effort, but I mean, you just said it yourself. It could take 18 to 20, 21 months to
Right.
get this customer. So that's a lot invested. You've really taken the time to study that company, study that industry, learn exactly what they need, and then provide it for them. I kind of look at sales as a matchmaking business. If I'm able to provide what you're looking for, then we can do business. And on top of that, if I'm able to help you at the same time, then we're double winners. So I wouldn't say it's separating yourself. I think it's more about streamlining that process, going from taking that sales cycle and then applying it to grocery and redistribution. You're just taking the same mentality, but you're streamlining it.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of gets me, it kind of steers me into the question. We learn a lot from our customers. We learn a lot from being in front of the customers and getting into those everyday situations as sellers. What do you in your time that you've been with Bunzel or with any situation in sales, do you feel more from when you win or when you lose? You give it that 18 months with the customer and you don't win that contract, you don't win that sale, and it goes somewhere else. Where do you learn the most or feel better about yourself at?
Hmm. Well, feel better about myself. I definitely would say winning.
Right.
But learning is definitely from a loss
Yes.
because you are able to take a step back, look at the bigger picture here. And this takes experience. I'm still learning this. But when you fail, there's a reason. There's always a reason for that. And my number one mentality since coming in here is that I'm ready. I'm eager to fail and learn. I actually had a call with my new director, Jeff Bolus, in Atlanta this morning, and we were discussing our plan for next week. I'm going to be doing introductions to my new clients, and I'm going to be meeting with the current reps, and we're going to be working together. And I ended the call with, "I'm excited and eager to fail and learn," and it's been my mantra my whole life. You know, it's if you don't, if you fail, then you're going to learn something at it and then you could take it and grow. If you keep winning, that's great. But, you know, you may lose sight of maybe minor things that you could be doing better to improve. And
Yeah.
that's kind of been my mindset.
Right. I know you have gone through, and that was one of the mantras I had mentioned during our DPS Dimensions and Professional Selling course we had, that we always bring salespeople, new salespeople, and even people that have been in industry 20, 30, 40 years in sales, is that you cannot ever stop learning and looking at your losses and going back and say, hey, what did I do wrong? How can I get better? Because when you stop doing that, learning, then you've stopped everything. It's not, it's not going to be beneficial to you as a salesperson or seller, especially when you think you know it all. And people that I talk to that have been 30, 40 years in sales, the first thing they always say is, hey, I'm always willing to learn. And especially working with new people, I'll learn something different. And that's the mindset I think you have to have at all points. What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes newer salespeople into the profession make right off the bat?
I think it'd be to fail to look at the bigger picture.
Right.
I think that kind of what I was saying earlier is that as sellers, we have an innate confidence about ourselves. I'm guilty of this too. When I first took the job, I was excited. I felt that this was a huge accomplishment in my life. Bunzel's a great company to work for, and started. I'm in the inaugural class of the sales development and leadership development program for Bunzel, and you can kind of get caught. You can get caught in that, and you become tunnel vision, and you kind of block things out because you think that, well, you got yourself here for a reason, right? So you must be doing things right. And you're failing to see the bigger picture. And I think that applies with both, your career, but also with your customers too. And that ties everything back together. It's, if you're coming into a sales call with the sole intention of selling this specific napkin, but they don't want a napkin or need a napkin, then you just missed a potential sale because you missed
Right.
the bigger picture. You
Right.
weren't able to put that aside and be able to look at things for what the reality that's in front of you. And that's been a big shift in me, is that I had to look at myself in the mirror and tell myself that I need to take a step back and look at things for what they really are, not what I want them to be. And like, we're so quick to try and close that we really fail to see how we can add value in general. So it's as I said, sales is a matchmaking process, in my opinion. And if the client has a problem, it's our job to identify that problem, provide a solution. And as junior sellers, I think that's the most imperative thing. If you're really going to try and get your feet underneath you, you have to get some wins, but you also need to identify problems. And because if you don't identify them now, you're never going to.
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny, when I asked a question about whether winning or losing is where you feel the best. And, hey, when you win that deal, when you get that sale, you're excited, you're happy, but then you come down and then you get back to reality. Okay, that was great for this. I need now to go back out and get more sales, fill that pipeline. So it's a very short-lived process, the win,
Mhm.
because you know how to win. It's when you lose a sale, you lose a deal, and you spend a lot of time on it. You have to review with yourself, and I do this all the time, is that I stop and, like you say, take a pause and say, what did I not do? You know, especially in that meeting, what did I do wrong? And a lot of times it goes back to not getting to the customer's gap, what their desired outcome is. For instance, we have own brands that we're out there selling today. And we're so excited as salespeople that we want to sell our brands. We want to get out there and tell them what they might not know, but it may not be their gap, right? It may
Exactly.
not be what we need to sell them. Maybe they just want to know a little bit more about the organization. Maybe they want know a little bit more about Nick or Pat, or, what you do. And that's one thing that I think a lot of us, no matter where you are, what start date you had with any organization, is that if we forget that, we forget what the customer really wants, we're not going to make a sale no matter what, and then we're going to fall into okay, hey, Nick, just give me a price, just give me a price on this and get you out the door. That's where I think a lot of people fail.
I
What do
would
you
agree
think?
completely.
Yeah, what do you think is one of the ingredients that you have as a salesperson that really you've learned to foster or use to your benefit?
Hmm. It's a good question. I would say that when I'm asking questions, my goal is to provide you with the best answer that I possibly can give to help you. Um, I find that some people, at least in my past, um, they would ask you questions, but they would already have the answer in their head.
Right.
Um, and I learned this through my family, honestly. I'm the youngest of my family, and I always I'm the one that they come to for, which is crazy. Like they come to me for advice. I have two older brothers that are going to be 27, and they still come to me. And I think a big reason for that is that I sit and I listen and I try to dissect your problem and
Right.
provide you an answer that's going to help you in the best way possible, not make me sound super intelligent or super smart in any way, right? If I do, then that's great, but that's not my intention. My intention is to try and help you in the best way possible. And that's gotten me to where I am today. And that's why I still have really good relationships with people outside of work. And I've made great connections within the company. And I think it's because people think they realize I'm genuine.
Right.
I'm not trying to get something off of you. My goal is to help people. If I can help you, then I feel fulfilled. So
When a customer knows that you're genuine, that's where you've hit the sweet spot. They know exactly that you're concerned about them. And that's one of the traits a lot of salespeople don't understand. They think the relationship is all about, oh, taking people out to lunch or going out at night and, having a good time and having the big dinners. But that's not where you make the sale. You make the sales when you come in and you genuinely are interested in their business. You want to be partners with them. And we talked about being in preferred position. Preferred position is the most optimal position to be in with the customer, but it's not always easy to get there. And
Mhm.
that's where if you have a trait or something, an ingredient in your sales cycle that helps you get there is real important, I believe. I
Absolutely.
uh, I remember when we were in St. Louis when we were going through the training, the sales training course, and you and I and a few others sat down and we were just, during the break, we were talking. And you had asked me, hey, if I had any advice, what would that be? And I looked at you and I said, get a mentor. You have to get a mentor. And it was really great to see your eyes just went like wide open and you were excited. Why did you get excited when I mentioned the mentor?
Well, it was because I could tell that it wasn't like, oh, like go study, right?
Right.
It was, this is what you really need. You need somebody that is experienced in this and that is going to be willing to walk you through things. And it was like the light bulb went off in my head. And at that time, I actually just received my mentor in this program. We were given a mentor. My mentor is Zach Hall.
Right.
Um, and he's been unbelievable. I'm actually going to lunch with him today,
Good.
and he's taught me so much. Along with Zach, but both Zach watches Zach squared.
Right. Too
But
many Zachs, right? Yeah.
exactly. Both I got two Zachs. Both of them have taken the time to really mentor me and take me underneath their wing. And I don't think that I would be here if I didn't have that. It was at the time I was so focused on figuring out my own. Right.
Right.
I was new to the company. This was September. I started in August. And I was just so focused on proving myself. And when you were like, no, get a mentor, like get somebody that's going to mentor you and really teach you these things, that's when the light bulb went off. I was like, okay, that was to take the step back, look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciated that because we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
So you really took the time to help me and to talk to me. So I appreciate that.
Well, the whole issue about mentors is that a lot of times people go, "Oh, geez, why do I need a mentor?" Because I think, I need to learn things of my own. But I've been with Bunzl over 30 years now, and I have at least four mentors, and I'm not ashamed to say that because mentors are great people. If you have any weaknesses, like, financials to me is very difficult, to understand, especially today's financials that we have, the P&L for Bunzl is very difficult. You need somebody to help walk you through those moments, because if you're not really if you know somebody that's an expert in financials, why not bring those people in, especially when you make a
Mhm.
sales call to the customer? And when I say that to a lot of junior salespeople, they go, "Oh, I didn't know I could bring maybe the warehouse supervisors and help my customer, come up with a better logistics plan of their warehouse." Use those people to have the expertise. That's the best, advice I can give anybody starting off in any sales job. If you have a mentor, that they'll teach you something that you may not know, and their tribal knowledge is so important. We talk about that all the time. We have to share that knowledge we have with our colleagues and our cohorts at all times to just help them out, and that's where it is for me. If I will give you the last word. Anything that you want to share with the audience that you've learned, or in any advice?
Advice for I'm going to aim this for the next cohort that's coming in, that's starting in June. Come in with the mentality of being open-minded. Um, you're going to do things that you probably don't want to do. You're also going to do a lot of things that are cool,
Right.
and you're going to be learning something that's brand new to you. And if you come in closed-minded, you're not going to get the big picture. So we have 9 great candidates that are coming in, and this program is really expanding, and it's going to be great for Bunzl moving forward. But you got to come in with the mentality that this is open. You're open minded, and you're competing against yourself.
Yeah, the bigger picture. I love that term, because that's exactly what you have to always look at with the customer and your life, your career, the bigger picture. It's a pleasure talking with you today, Nick. Great interview. Where do people go to connect or to follow you?
Sure. I mean, this was awesome, Pat. I've never been on a podcast before, so this has been really cool. I appreciate you having me. If anybody would like to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, so it's Nicholas Santo, NiCholasSanto. And then my email is nicholas.santo@bunzlusa.com. Um, Feel free to reach out. I'm always looking to meet new people and have conversation.
Great. It's a pleasure.